What are some new things added to Java 8?
Well, Java 8 is really cool because it was revolutionary for Java. It added a lot of cool new features that allowed coders to make less code, provide more functionality, and it also helped in runtime for the programs. So Java came out with quite a few new features, but the ones I'm going to be talking about today are functional interfaces, lambda expressions, and method references. Good question. I'll show you a little example right here. A functional interface is an interface that only has one abstract method. So I show this example here where our method is simply void show. So we're not filling in any more of the method, and this is going to provide one functionality which we will later use in lambda expressions. So functional interfaces are really important to understand before using lambda expressions and method references. Basically, they're just interfaces that have one abstract method that will later be called in lambda expressions to provide one functionality.
Now, what are lambda expressions?
Good question. Lambda expressions. Here's my example that I've written right here. This is the typical annotation for lambda expressions. If there's 0 arguments, you will put an empty set of parentheses and then the body of your statement. If there's 1 argument, then you will do a system out print statement with that variable name in parentheses. If you have 2 arguments, you'll just put them in a set of parentheses with commas and then your expression's body. And for multiple statements, you can do it like just a standard method. You can pass in variable names, and the lambda expressions will allow you to take code as data. And so instead of having to create anonymous classes and such to make these helper to help your program, you can use lambda expressions as a shortened way to call functional interfaces, which will help you to use 1 bit of code as data, which you can pass through your program as if it were a variable. Lambda expressions are super helpful in Java because you don't have to create all these anonymous classes and stuff anymore. You can simply make a functional interface with 1 abstract method and then use the lambda to call it. The lambda is expressed as an arrow to the right. You're going to say the arguments, and then you're going to make an arrow pointing to the right, and then you're going to leave your expression body. And so that is the basic gist of lambda expressions.
But what if I am too lazy and want something more direct?
You're too lazy and you want something more direct? Well, if you're only calling 1 method within your lambda expression, you can use something called a method reference. Here's my example of a method reference. So, right here we have the object or class name, and then we have the operand, which is 2 colons right next to each other. And then we have the method the name of the method that we're calling. So, class name, operand, which is 2 colons, name of the method that we are calling. And so, in conclusion, lambda expressions are basically anonymous classes that you can shorten down into expressions using functional interfaces, which have only 1 abstract method. And then method references are basically shortened versions of lambda expressions, which are much more direct because they just simply claim the class name and the method being called. It's very easy for other developers to see what you're doing in your code, and in such a verbose verbose language such as Java, where so much code is used to provide such little functionality, these additional features help to cut down boiler code and make coding more efficient and just better in general for developers.